this has been a great debate, and I appreciate the fact that you've held it. In America today, we face one of the most important elections ever. There's a great deal of discontent in the country on the one hand. We are at war. We're spending a great deal of money in that war. We have deficits. One of our candidates characterized them as huge deficits. They're not huge deficits. They're much smaller than they were historically under Clinton and prior administrations, and they are less than half of what were projected because the tax cuts actually made a difference. They've caused the taxes are the worst kind of regulation you can have, and the tax cuts that we've already, the ones that are not yet permanent, have been phenomenally helpful in the growth of the economy. And by continuing to grow the economy, we get to the point where we're giving to government what we give to God, a much lower percentage than we're currently demanding. So I hope that people who are listening to this debate will be very thoughtful about it. Where do we want to go in America? Do we want to jerk the system around? Do we want to put Charlie Rangel in charge of taxes? He's already said he's going to, one, focus everything he has on impeaching George Bush, and secondly, he's going to not allow the tax cuts to become permanent. Those are both wrong things. We need to have oversight. We need to do what Congress is supposed to do in overseeing any administration. But we are on the right path in America today. Things are working well. They're working so well that we actually create our own problems. I hope that as our listeners evaluate how to vote, that they'll realize that really good things are happening in America, and I ask you for your vote.
Yeah, I just want to say the most important thing right now is that we are at war. Bin Laden wanted us to go to war. He had planned on it. That was his move. He did this because he hoped we would have this huge reaction, and in this attempt to save modernity, it has actually increased his ability to recruit terrorists because of this push. If you elect me to Congress, I promise to defend individual liberty, respect the limits of the U.S. Constitution, manage immigration as our founders envisioned, oppose legislation that unbalances the budget, oppose U.S. military adventurism abroad. I don't want anybody to waste their vote on a candidate who belongs to parties that promise fiscal restraint but delivered record government growth and deficit spending. Make your voice heard for smaller government, fewer taxes, and more freedom. Support Philip Hallman with your vote, and you can see my website at myspace.com/Phil4Congress.
Yes, thank you. First of all, the national debt's not really $9 trillion. According to the Federal Reserve, in the next 10 to 20 years, it's going to be $65 trillion with the amount of money that unmandated mandates. Here's what we have a problem here. According to the Federal Reserve, out of St. Louis, the United States is officially bankrupt, number one. And second of all, I really take the war on terrorism seriously. We close our borders. I am totally against the Security and Prosperity Partnership with President Bush, and I keep emphasizing that. This is the burning issue of the day right now. The house is on fire, and everybody wants to shine the brass doorknobs. The Constitution Party is 100% committed to restoring the principles of the Founding Fathers. Right now, the Republican Party is hemorrhaging. Many good conservative Republicans have moved to the Constitution Party by the thousands. As your elected representative, I will do everything I can to restore the principles of the Founding Fathers. I do not believe you have to give up one of your constitutional rights, including the one that was passed yesterday, the Military Commission Act. I do not believe you have to give up one of your constitutional rights to fight the war on terror. I would be honored to have your vote. I'm Jim Norlander, and I would be honored to have your vote this November. Thank you.
We desperately need ethics reform in the Congress. This revolving door between the ethics problems that we're having from the lobbying firms in Washington coming into our congressional offices is causing our outrageous spending and is eroding away our constitutional rights. In our 3rd District Congressional Office, David Safavian, who was a gambling lobbyist that worked for Jack Abramoff, came into our office, ran our office, and then he left and went to work for Jack Abramoff. No, it's not
your 30 seconds.
Hold on.
This is a personal attack when there's no opportunity for response, and it's entirely inappropriate.
We can go on after this. Let's just
thank you. I would
let's stick with the format here.
But I think this should not be a matter of personal attacks.
I understand. I'll make a note of that, and we'll come back to this question following his answer.
What Mr. Cannon doesn't want people to know about his record. In his office, he hired David Safavian, who is now in prison. He was a gambling lobbyist that worked for Jack Abramoff, who is now in prison. We need ethics reform. If we don't have this revolving door between the lobbying firms and keeping people out of our offices and having a 2 to 5 year ban between being lobbyists and working in our congressional offices, we're going to have better spending, we're going to have better policies, and we need to clean up the ethics problem in the Congress. Mr. Cannon's interjecting because he doesn't want people to know what's going on in Washington. I promise to go clean up the ethics in Washington. My name's Christian Burge. My website's burgeforcongress.com.
Thank you. Now let's come back to this particular question. Congressman, I think you heard some things there that you objected to, and you're welcome to rebut that.
Thank you. Actually, I think that this needs to be, given the fact that Mr. Burge has made some attacks, I think this needs to be a discussion where it goes back and forth, because what he has done is saved some kind of little nasty statement until his last statement where he expected it to go unchallenged on that.
I'd be happy to debate you with it. I'd be happy to debate you back and forth.
Well, but thank you, and that would be an appropriate thing to do. But typically in debates, and I think that you were a debate champion, I think you know the rules, that you don't make issues that are personal unless you have an environment where those things can be gone back and forth very carefully. Because
I'm not objecting to it.
You're interrupting me at this point. These are issues of great importance to me. They go to my integrity, and I have a right under all recognized rules in America for debate to deal with those issues. The fact is, David Safavian is not in jail. That's wrong. He's appealing a conviction that happened based upon facts that even the Tribune, which is no friend of mine in this manner, has indicated I have no personal responsibility or a problem with, and it's deeply offensive to claim that. The fact is, we have laws on the books. If you come in with some kind of new idea for how you're going to handle a 2 to 5 year period where people couldn't go out and work in the area that they work in, you'll keep smart people out of working for government on the one hand, and on the other hand, David Safavian wasn't out working for a lobbyist when he had a problem. His problem was when he was the head of purchasing for the, I guess it was the chief of staff for the General Accounting or Accountability now office, or General Services Administration. So these things are appropriate to talk about. They've been in the press, and to make wanton and aggressive and twisted and wrong factually based allegations is inappropriate in a debate like this. And unfortunately, when we're sitting on the telephone, it's very difficult to go back and forth and actually nail down what the intention is. And I expect an apology from Mr. Burge for saying those things that are outrageous and wrong and factually incorrect.
What I'd like to suggest is that let's give Mr. Burge the last word, and if you'd like to rebut that now. If you two gentlemen would like to address this separately after this debate, we can set up another discussion, possibly on iProvo or something like that, and we can address that.
Well, there are limits. If I could just interject, Mr. Wright, there are limits to propriety in a debate like this, and there are limits that are technological. We're not facing each other. We're not on telephones. I think it's appropriate for Mr. Burge to respond to what I've just suggested, what I've just said, but I think he needs to do it within the well-understood limits of propriety, in which case I don't have a response.
The rules of propriety is that you need to be responsible for your record and what you've done and who you hire in your office. The rules of the debate were that anything we wanted to bring up, we could, and I did, and I was well within the rules of debate. But the fact is, this man is a gambling lobbyist that the office knew about before he hired it. There were gambling votes that were made to stop internet bans in your office. He has now left and went and worked for Jack Abramoff. And my point is, when considering the person that you're going to vote for, you should know what goes on in our taxpayer-funded congressional offices, and people have a right to know that, and people need to know the types of people that their congressman is associating with.
All right, thank you. I'm going to break in right there because I think that this could go on. I think what we need is a separate venue for this.
Mr. Moderator?
Yes.
This is Jim Norlander.
Yes.
I think that this conversation, personally, this attack against Mr. Cannon is completely unwarranted. If I wanted to bulldog or brainstorm on this telephone, I could have done the same thing. I think that Mr. Cannon is absolutely right. Mr. Burge is way out of line.
Mr. Hallman, do you have any comment?
Oh, I think everybody in Congress is a scumbag, so that's why I'm running.